Welcome to today's Explainer. We're taking a highly detailed 2026 B2B procurement guide and transforming it into your absolute strategic blueprint for sourcing global waste management vehicles. Look, if you're managing multi-million-dollar municipal fleets or navigating international distribution, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, let's just dive right in. We have to acknowledge the sheer scale of this market. China is literally the undisputed global production hub for special purpose vehicles, or SPVs. Right now, they completely dominate exports for refuse collectors, sweepers, and vacuum trucks. But, and this is a big but, navigating a massive industrial base like this, it requires a whole lot more than just looking at a price tag. So here's our roadmap. We're going to break down the global sanitation hub, compare the top manufacturers by their actual strategic strengths, dive deep into the 3 technical pillars of procurement, and finally, navigate the real-world logistics of getting these fleets deployed. The goal is to look way past that initial quote and find the perfect synergy of engineering and long-term reliability. All right, Section 1, the Global Sanitation Hub. Let's start with the big picture and figure out exactly what's driving this massive international demand right now. Because global waste management, it has rapidly evolved. The days of just buying a simple dump truck are totally over. Today, procurement officers have to prioritize advanced automation, incredibly strict emission standards like Euro V or VI, and highly specialized configurations. It's really this complex puzzle of matching upper body engineering with rigorous environmental compliance. Moving on to Section 2, comparing top manufacturers. We're not just going to read off a list here. We need to categorize these brands by their actual strategic advantages so you know exactly who to call for your specific project. This really breaks down the landscape perfectly. It separates the market into 3 distinct tiers: high-end, high-volume, and new energy. Instead of just getting completely lost in a sea of brands, you can instantly align your project's needs. High-end brands are all about proprietary chassis and full canvas control systems. Meanwhile, the high-volume brands, they rely on accessible local chassis and basic manual controls to keep your costs down. And what's truly fascinating is the stark contrast in procurement philosophy here. On one side, you've got the smart city, high-budget approach. Think Zoomlion with their advanced CAN bus monitors, or Infore Enviro using cloud platforms to track route efficiency and mechanical health in real time. But on the other side, general volume tenders. If you need massive scale, highly customized bodywork, flexible minimum order quantities, and globally available parts, giants like Chengli and Dongfeng are absolutely your go-to. But hey, what if your operation handles heavy industrial refuse? You definitely can't rely on standard urban models for that. You need sheer ruggedness. That is exactly where you look at Sany Heavy Industry. They bring construction-grade hydraulic seals to stop leaks dead in their tracks. Or XCMG Environmental, who use wear-resistant high-tensile steel, basically Hardox equivalents, to survive the really brutal life cycle of large-scale waste transfer. Now, for specific export regions, the chassis literally makes all the difference. Sinotruk is the absolute champion of rough road durability, making them incredibly popular in Africa and the Middle East, where you just need tough machinery that's easy to maintain without special diagnostic tools. Conversely, if you're doing urban last-mile collection in a strict emission metropolitan area, Foton Motor leverages a partnership with Daimler to give you highly efficient Euro 6 compliant light-duty options. And finally, for regions facing strict carbon neutrality mandates, we've got the new energy leaders. Yutong actually takes their world-class electric bus battery management systems and puts them straight into sanitation trucks. That ensures reliable performance anywhere from -30 all the way up to +50 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, Fulongma Group, or FLM, offers pure electric sweepers with meticulously optimized battery placement. That gives them a super low center of gravity, which is perfect for safely navigating tight urban corridors. Okay, Section 3, the 3 pillars of procurement. Knowing who to buy from, that's really only half the battle. Let's do a technical deep dive into how to actually evaluate their machinery. The crucial takeaway here is that procurement managers absolutely must verify these 3 technical pillars. Relying on the brand name alone is not enough. You have to scrutinize the hydraulics, the anti-corrosion methods, and the synergy between the chassis and the body. If you don't, you're risking disastrous equipment failures out in the field. Let's look at that first pillar, the hydraulic system. Honestly, this is probably the most common failure point. When you're evaluating a supplier, always ask for the compactor cycle time. 15 to 25 seconds, that's your industry standard for operational efficiency. And to make sure that speed actually holds up over years of abuse, You want to specify high-pressure hoses with 24-degree cone seals and insist on premium valves like Rexroth. For the second pillar, we really have to talk about leachate. That's the highly corrosive liquid generated by compressed garbage, and it's nasty stuff. You must demand electrophoresis or ED coating for the chassis, along with premium anti-corrosive paint for the inner tanks. And if you're buying vacuum tankers for chemical waste, accept nothing less than 304 or 316L stainless steel. You have got to protect that long-term investment. All right, moving to Section 4, Navigating Logistics and Sourcing. Let's shift from engineering specs to the practical, rapid-fire reality of closing the deal and getting these fleets shipped. So here's a question that comes up all the time. Can Chinese manufacturers actually produce trucks that meet stringent Euro-VI emission standards for markets like Europe or Australia? The answer is a resounding yes. Brands like Yutong and Foton offer full Euro-VI compliance. Even better, a lot of suppliers will do body-only shipments. That means they just ship the specialized upper body, and you mount it yourself onto your locally sourced MAN, Mercedes, or Isuzu chassis. Next logistical hurdle. What is the typical minimum order quantity, the MOQ, when you need highly customized sanitation trucks? Well, it's actually incredibly flexible, depending on who you choose. For a standard, high-volume model from a giant like Chengli, your MOQ could literally be a single unit, just one. That said, if you're asking for highly specialized, custom-engineered electric builds, factories usually need an MOQ of around 3 to 5 units just to offset those intense R&D and engineering costs. Now, what happens after the sale? How do you handle service when your brand new fleet is thousands of miles away from the factory? Honestly, leading manufacturers are super adaptable here. They offer completely knocked down or semi-knocked down shipping options to save on freight. And they'll even dispatch their own engineers directly to your location for on-site fleet training. But listen, here is a major pro tip you need to build right into your blueprint. Never finalize an order without negotiating a comprehensive wear and tear spare parts package upfront. Get those essential seals, filters, and sensors, packed and shipped inside your very first container. Waiting weeks for a $50 sensor to clear customs while your $100,000 truck sits there completely idle? Yeah, that's a procurement nightmare you definitely want to avoid. So you've picked the manufacturer, locked in the specs, and secured the spare parts. Next question, what's the lead time for a standard fleet deployment of, say, 10 to 20 trucks? Getting this timing right is absolutely critical for municipal rollouts. Generally, standard manufacturing lead times sit between a very efficient 30 to 60 days, depending on chassis availability. But just a quick heads up, if you're ordering complex new energy vehicles, expect that timeline to push closer to 90 days, mostly because sourcing those specialized batteries just takes a bit longer. As we start to wrap up this explainer, we have to look back at that third pillar of procurement. We actually save this for last because it is, without a doubt, the most common fatal mistake in this industry: failing to match the power takeoff, or PTO, to the engine's torque curve. Seriously, never buy a high-quality body and put it on an underpowered chassis. It'll inevitably lead to stalling out during heavy compaction or high-pressure pumping and completely ruin the operational efficiency you just paid for. So, I want to leave you with a thought to really challenge your next request for proposal. When those bids start rolling in, ask yourself, are you truly prioritizing chassis synergy and long-term municipal reliability, or are you just taking the lowest initial quote? By using this blueprint, you now have the exact tools you need to demand the engineering standard your fleet actually deserves. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.